although initially we use macro only for some basic stuff like numbers or strings and things like that, but we can use macros for statements also, or for continuous characters as well. So everything after this macro name happens to be the replacement string, which will get replaced. And not only that, macros can be used as parameterized form, where you can pass parameter. It looks like parameters, but you can pass them, and then they replace the corresponding parameters appropriately. The couple of points to know over here, and of course we discussed about the importance of brackets, because many times the appropriate operation will not be done if brackets are not used. But 2 points that we need to remember. Number one, that this is not a data type. Macro is not a data type, right? I mean, I mentioned that if we do this mistake, it is not going to catch at this line. It is not going to determine that size is integer. We never say that size is integer. Tomorrow I could have just said that this size was not a, but maybe abc, or not 1a. So the compiler is perfectly fine with it, although wherever this abc is being used, at that point it needs to be defined. So so it doesn't take doesn't do the type check. That is the first point. It's not a variable, it's not a data type. Number one, it's not a variable. Number two, it's not a data type. Number three, it doesn't do the type check. Okay. And number four, of course, it does not require memory, because it's not a data type. So there is no memory allocated on the stack. Okay, this is just replacement which is going to happen as part of the compilation. So no memory, no type check, no variable. Okay, and it's just a replacement string. Okay, that is what the hash define would do. Okay, the same thing holds even in this particular case. For example, it doesn't know over here what a and b is. It doesn't know whether it is integer. It doesn't know if it is float. Yeah, rather, you can pass for the same macro. You can use integers as well as floats both independently, because it never check. Okay, the type check will be done where actually is used. Okay, when you do I equal to max of I, let's say z x comma y, at that point the type check will be done. But otherwise, there is no type check which is done over here as part of hash define. So so there's no type check over here. Again, it does replacement string. And the last point over here I want to make is that although we have I have said that the replacement string is just up to the end of the line, that is not completely correct. There have been instances, or rather I have seen code where the replacement string can go on multiple lines. I mean, so people, many times what people do is, not many times, very rather, I would say the other way around. Very few times I have seen people actually defining a macro just like a function and having multiple lines as replacement string. The only point that I want to make over there is that different strings can be joined together by an operator, which is this backslash operator. So through that, one can go to, all the next line also be taken care. It is like a line continuation. So the next line can also be considered as a replacement string together. It is appended to this and it is considered. So so very few times I have seen these macros being used as functions. It looks like functions. So the idea is that there was a case, or there was a project of which I was part of, where the code has to go into the mobile, and this I'm talking about early 2000. So when the memory was very low on mobiles, so at that point you couldn't have a lot of functions basically defined in your program. But at the same time, as programmers, we love to have functions that we don't want to write the same code again and again. And then one person in my team who was quite proficient in this, he had defined macros, and through the macros he had defined functions. And even there are ways in which you can define even recursive kind of macros. Okay, so but then there are expansions are taking place over there. So there are rules how the expansions need to stop. So I don't want to get into that, but that is all part of NCC standard, and that is perhaps the most rarefied or most proficient part of C language, which perhaps I would believe that very few people would be using. I'm just telling you the possibilities. I'm not saying that any of these things you would require or we would require. Perhaps we would be more than happy with just hash define 10, and that is it. And even we may not require even these macros like max AB. Perhaps we would prefer functions as against the macros even in this case, because we want all of the data type operations, sorry, data type checks need to be done. So perhaps we'll not get into this as well. This I am telling you just for the completeness sake that all these things are possible. And as I'm saying it, I said that multiple line replacements is possible. Writing, let's say, function kind of things are also a little bit possible. But a lot of cares have to be taken. And even there are some kinds of recursions also which can play out. But this is completely beyond the scope of this. Even many of the advanced C language lectures also would not be discussing any of that. So let's leave that. It is not anyway. It is what not mentioned as part of the Kernighan Ricci book. Later when ANSYS standard was modified, all of those things were integrated. But as far as up to this point, whatever I had covered over here, all of these things are discussed in Kernighan Ricci book as well. Fine. So this is about the macros. Any question on macros? We have done the macros now. Now we'll move on to the next topic. Any question on macros? No? Okay. Fine. So let's move ahead now. Okay. So the next part is what I want to take now. Is more to understand. Okay, and this is something again which comes from the which becomes important when you get into more of programming and you start writing bigger programs. But there is some part, there are some something called as qualifiers which need to be described, and for that I need to mention all of these things. And let me do that. Okay, what all things are involved over there. So before I take any of the qualifiers, firstly, I think the simplest qualifiers which I can take, perhaps one simple qualifier which I can take, there are two qualifiers perhaps I can take, okay, immediately, and then we'll move on to the other ones. So the first two qualifiers which I will take is essentially, the first one is const, and the second one is register, and other three things I will take. And the third one is volatile. Okay. So what is const? So const is basically is a qualifier. What is qualifier? So let's say that int I is the declaration of integer I. Okay. But what I can do is I can say that this integer I is a constant. Okay. Or let's say that this integer is a size. Name is size. And I can say that this integer is a, so this const is a qualifier. So already you have a variable whose type is defined. It is an extra qualification this particular variable has, and that qualification, that's why word qualifier comes from qualification. So qualification you are making is what is called as const, which means constant. So you are saying that this variable is actually having a constant value, and because I am saying that it has having constant value, I need to give the value over here. Okay, at the time of declaration itself, declaration, definition, and assignment. All of these three things are happening together over here. So I will say that const int size equal to 10, which means that from this point onwards, anywhere the compiler sees something like assignment to size, it will create compiler error, because it understands that this is a constant variable and it cannot be modified. The value of that variable remains same throughout the life of this variable. Okay, and that's why it will not allow me to do this size equal to 15. So the compiler will search for the places where size appears on the left hand side of the assignment, and it will raise error at all those places. So this is a compilation. Now you might say that so what is the use of it? So I can use this size wherever I require a constant variable or constant value. But immediate doubt is that then how it is different from hash define. So we discussed that in hash define there is no type check which is done, whereas in this constant int size, that whenever I assign this size or I allow this size to be part of any expression, then type check will be done and the error will be raised at that point, which is not the case. The type check does not happen in case of hash define. It happens inside the expression, but as far as the variable is concerned, type check does not happen. Secondly, we can claim or we can say that a particular variable or particular parameter of a function is a const parameter, which means that that value when once it comes, it cannot be changed. So many times sizes of the the arrays that we pass, they could be thought of as const sizes, because we are not going to change that variable inside the function. It is not allowed to change that variable. So typically I can specify that by saying that this variable, this parameter is a const variable. So likewise, wherever we know that whatever parameter that we passing or whatever the variable that we have has a const value, okay, then basically we say that this variable has a const value, and then appropriate type check gets done if by mistake you try to change that value. That is the advantage. So defining a variable as const variable, it helps us in making sure that this variable does not get modified anywhere, even I pass it through the function or anything like that. So this is the most basic qualifier that we could have, and which is useful. The difference between hash define and this is only that this is a variable. In hash define, if I say hash define size 10, that size is not a variable, and so type checking happens over here. So it requires extra memory, by the way, because it's a variable. So I may think that hash define is better, but then this guy gives me, this const guy gives me an additional facility to have type check done, which hash defines don't have. So it's a choice that I have to make depending on my requirement. So this is the first qualifier that we would have. Second qualifier, these two qualifiers, register and volatile, these are called as, these are archaic qualifiers. Archaic meaning, I mean, these were used kind of in very early days of C language, and now the importance is gone. So what this register qualifier does is that I can say something like register int I. Okay. Now, what it means is that this particular variable, it is telling the compiler, when I use register, it is like telling the compiler that this variable should be preferred to be in a register. Now, the fact that you have done your DCMP course, I believe that you know what registers are on the system. So that is the same register we are talking about. Okay, the one which is used, which is created by using digital circuits, and that register is an inherent part of a processor. So what a compiler is telling is that to the system that this variable should be put inside a register. Okay, why someone should say that? Because perhaps this variable gets used more often. Typically, what happens is that most of the variables are in memory, in the random access memory, and the registers are the basic scratch units which the processor has. Okay, so every operation that you need to do, most of the times those variables are to be brought, those values have to be brought in the registers, operate on those scratch registers, and then the value is again updated back into the memory. That's what typically happens in most of the times, in most of the architectures that we have. So, and those are preferred architectures also for some other reason. So in that case, if I know that there is a variable which is going to be updated very often, and why that would happen, where that would happen, typically it would happen when you are inside a loop. Okay, so when you are inside a loop, or there are some loop variables, let's say I plus plus. So what we are saying over here to the compiler is that as much as possible, put value of I in a register. Now, why that is important? Because so there will be a lot of big code over here, and in the original days of computing, a number of registers were very limited. So not everything could have been in the register. But now what happens is every time I go to this condition, I have to check the condition, I have to increment value of I. So if it is not in register, every time it has to be brought from memory to register. So it takes a lot of overhead, which is bringing some value from register again from memory, and again maybe it gets moved back. Okay, so this is like blocking a register. It is like saying that I want to block one. I know that this variable is to be used again and again. So the programmer is giving a hint to the compiler that is, because this variable is going to be used again and again, please put it in the register. But again, as I said, these are the early days of computing before 1975. So where not only the number of registers were scarce, so you need to block a register, but even compilers were very weak, where they couldn't figure out that which variable is used again and again. Nowadays, compilers are also very strong. You need not do this. I mean, compilers can figure out that which variable is going to be used again and again, and by themselves they take an appropriate decision. So we can depend on compiler, and that's why I said that these are basically, these are archaic. Not today, not many people will use it. Now, one question which may come is, even in the older days, basically people were using it. As a programmer, I may say that every variable needs to be in register. That is not possible. The system does not give you a guarantee that everything that you want will be in a register. But this is like a good to have kind of thing. A system will kind of say that I will try as much as possible from my end to put this thing in register. But if it cannot, please excuse me. Okay, but it's like a hint that we are giving to the compiler that please put this guy in a register. So this was again. So that is why I say that this is not being used more often nowadays. Okay, this is a kind of archaic thing. This const thing, there is another use for the const, which is that whenever some variable is said to be const, and this variable is is involved. Let's say that I have another expression where I say that size into 10 plus 30. Let's say there is an expression like this. Okay, where size is a variable, but everything else, let's say, is a constant. Now, in this case, what happens is that what compiler can do is that if you know that the size is a const, it knows that value is not going to change anytime. And whenever some particular expression is there, it can actually pre-compute the expression and just replace the expression by the value. So the advantage is that this happens in the compile time when the program is getting compiled. So it can actually figure out over here that value of j at this point is going to be 130. So it can just replace this value of j to be 130. Not only that, wherever j is used later on, all those points that it can replace j with 130 given a condition that j is not updated before that. So all the uses of j after this point before it gets updated next can be changed to 130. So there are these are the optimizations because it is going to save time at runtime. So when you execute a program, so there is an advantage by this const declaration that it can do some kind of optimizations. The compiler can do some kind of optimizations, pre-computation, for example, which is not possible if you define this size as a hash define. And typically this is in the case when these variables are involved in the expressions. When they are not, let's say you are just having size of array, then in that case it does not matter. Okay, so this is again, there is another reason why this const is useful. Why I'm saying this is there is an exactly opposite of that which is called as volatile. So if I say that I have a variable or I have some variable which is called as I, and I say that it is volatile int I, then in that case I am giving the opposite hint. I am saying that please don't do any optimization. Okay, so this is like a hint to the compiler not to do any optimization, because we are saying the programmer is giving a hint that I know that this variable is going to be updated many times over. So even if I may have some value as constant somewhere at the start, don't assume that this value will remain constant. I mean, although it's not constant, it looks like that it is having a value, a constant value, but of course it can change because it's not a const. So later on, basically, but it is giving a hint that don't try to do any optimization. I know that this is going to change again and again. So this is a hint to the compiler again. Okay, so the const also is giving a hint to the compiler that you can do as many optimizations as possible because I'm not going to change the value. It's exactly opposite is in volatile, which says that I'm not going to do any optimization. Now this volatile, let me tell you why I'm taking this, is that if someone can, I mean, if you can search in the C programming book and not through the index which is given at the back of the book, and then you just read the book, and if you can find me this where this volatile appears, okay, within the next 2 days, okay, then I would consider it as a big task, because this volatile appears only once in the Kernighan and Ritchie book and somewhere which you cannot guess. Okay, so even if you start reading the book. So let me tell you, it appears not in the text, actual text, it appears in the appendix, one of the appendices, and it is written only at one single place where this particular thing is defined and nowhere else. So in the older days, when someone would say in the interviews that, the interviewer asked that, what is your confidence level in C language? Let's say on the scale of 10. And someone happens to say that I'm 10 of 10 or 9 of 10 or 10 of 10, saying that I'm very much confident. This was one question which all the interviewers had to their up to their sleeve, which they used to throw. Okay, if you are so confident, tell me what volatile is. And 99% people would not be able to answer, because this is given for that you have to kind of read Kernighan and Ritchie book from first word to the last word. And many books which are written as interpretations of C language, I mean, to describe C language, most of them will miss this out. Okay, so this is something again which is archaic, which is not being used now, because again for the same reason that the compilers have become very strong, and compilers can themselves figure out that this particular variable is going to be used again and again. So I need not basically update this variable. Okay, so or I need not use this variable for any optimization. So that's why these register and volatile both have become kind of archaic. Not many people today use those. Okay, whereas const is still useful because we may still require some variables which are having const sizes. Rather, you would see that many of the functions in library functions are having one of the parameters as constant, typically the sizes of arrays or something like that. So these are the three basic qualifiers that we have. And now we have two more. One is called as extern and other is called as static. Now, some of you might know static, but let me tell you that that is just half truth. This actual extern and static are used in many different ways. Rather, the static is used in two different ways, out of which perhaps some of you might know only one. Okay, and the other one you will not know. I will not be surprised if you don't know, because that requires a bigger view of the programming environment. It cannot be done without having a view of programming environment as a set of files. Okay, then only we can understand this. So let me now describe how basically where these things come into the picture. Okay. So yeah. So no question as of now. So in case any question is there on the register constant volatile, I can take it up. I'll give you a minute for that. If not, then I will start describing about external and static. Okay, no question. Fine. So so before I describe this, we'll have to understand how the programming environment itself looks like normally. And when I say normally, it is not for us. When we write bigger set of programs, how things happen. So imagine that you are working in a company and you are in a project, and the project comes, and you are not the only programmer, right? I mean, in the project, there will be at least most of the projects are made up of number of people which are upwards of 5. So at least you would say that around well, let's say 5 to 10 is a very normal number. So anywhere between 5 to 7, 8 programmers could be there in a very small group as well. If we are talking about very very big groups of projects, you might have even hundreds of programmers working on the same project. Okay, if that looks a little bit larger, I can tell you that in many of the startups, typically 15-20 people are working on the same project. Okay, their goal is the same, that to develop some piece of software. Okay, which is one single piece, by the way. But then how can these 10 different people work on the same piece of software? That is the first question. So the answer to that is it's not as if that they work on the same set of files or same set of things. What actually happens is that they first do what is called as requirement specification. They understand the requirement of the software, and then the design is done, which is called as, and then the overall functionality is divided into different modules. For example, the project that you have done, let's say student record, student database, you can say that there are different modules over there. One is the updation module, updation and is insert, delete, kind of those basic operations. Other module could be sorting kind of module where it is sorting the data. The third module could be reporting module, which is giving lot of reports out. And there could be some special operations, which could be another module. So there are different modules in which we can divide the piece of software. And then one programmer is allocated for one single module. Okay, and then that particular programmer works on that module. Okay. Now, what is a module? Basically, that module itself would be made up of different set of files. But right now, let's keep the thing simple. Let's imagine that there are 4 different modules in our program. Okay, so I will say that essentially I can have 4 different files over here. So yeah, so where is the shapes? So let's say that I have, this is file 1, and similarly I have 4 different files over here. So I will draw, so this is 1, let me just copy it. Let's say this is file 2, this is, let's say, file 3, and there is a 4th one which I will pull in over here. Okay, so there are 4 files I have. Shall I name these files? Maybe I can name them. So so I will say add text. Okay, I will say f1.c. Okay, file1.c, or let me say, although names of our files may not be as dumb, I mean they should also be conveying some meaning what they are doing. So for example, if I am doing that student record program, I will say update db.c. Okay, or basic, I will say, or instead of basic ops I will say, which includes update and basic ops. Okay, then perhaps I will have sorting operation. So I will say sort db.c. So different sorting operations are written over here. Then maybe I have some UI kind of user interface. So I will say UI.c is the 3rd one. And then there is a 4th one, which is essentially where the what do you say? So this UI. So let's say special ops. Okay, there are some special ops I want to do, which are there. And then basically over here, either I will say interface.c, or I will say even yeah. So these 4 things could be there. Okay, and then beyond that, there is one more file I can have, which typically most of the programs do have basically in such cases, which is essentially called as main.c. Okay. So this main is the controller, and where essentially you can imagine that main function is written. Okay, so most of the time this main.c contains one single function, which is the main function. Okay, fine. So all the functions which are to do with basic operations, let's say insert, delete, update, let's say they are part of this basic ops.db.c. All the sorting data functions are sortdb.c, interface data function interface.c. Some UI you develop, let's say, and there are some special ops that you do, so they are in special ops.c. Okay. So this is how the whole code is typically split. So the manager comes and says, okay, he distributes, says that this programmer has to do basic ops db.c, someone else has to do sort db.c, someone else has to do special ops, someone else has to do interface.c. Okay. Now, once this is given, what do you think are the typical problems you may face? I mean, this is what manager says. And let's say that within yourselves, there are 4 people and we divide this program into 4 different parts. What are the issues that you are going to face? Typical issues you are going to face. What can you think of? One question is that how do you compile all of these things, right? I mean, that I think I had told you in the very beginning. I said that there are different files. Every file gets compiled independently. Every .c files get compiled as .obj in the Microsoft environment, in Windows environment. In Linux environment, it gets compiled as .o, and this all those .objs and .os are combined together along with this main .o, and together through that main .o function, basically you create what is called as .exe. Okay. So this is how the way compilation is going to happen is different files are going to get compiled separately, and all these .os or .objs are going to get compiled to create one single executable. The requirement for that is one main function has to be present, and only one main function has only one main function has to be present, and that we are making sure that it is present only in this main dots. Okay. So this is how the compilation is going to take place. So what are the different issues or different requirements that you might have? So Pulkit is saying that for global variables, everyone might refer to them differently. Correct. So there might be what Pulkit is saying is there could be some variables which are global variables and which are shared, which need to be shared across all of these different files. Okay, and there comes our first problem. Okay, that I have variables which everyone wants to refer to. But before that, I mean, if you actually think how things are going to happen, before that, at least you need to know that there are these variables which everyone is going to refer to them. Because what happens is if this interface.c comes up with a variable says this is global, the sortdb.c says that this is global, and everyone says that it is global. There are two problems. How a variable which is declared in interface.c will be accessed by other guys, because let's say this interface.c is there, and let's say that there is a variable called as clock which interface basically defines, but maybe this clock is required to be used by all of the other guys also. So how does it share this int clock with other guys? Okay, that is a question. And a second thing is basically every module writer or will come up with their own requirement that this is global, this is global, this is global. So how do you know the name? Because this sortdb.c might also assume clock. So it doesn't. Maybe let's say special ops.c might also assume clock, but this guy defines it as int clk. Now, is this clk and this clock are they same or are they different? Okay, and if they are same, then same variable is required to be used. How to do that? If they are different, then it is okay. I mean, they can use separately, but then they should not mix up with each other. But if they are same, how do they convey to each other that these variables are there? Even before that, the bigger problem is the same structures might be used. Structure declarations might be used. So there is some structure declaration. Let's say even array of records itself. Let's say. So this array of records, they have to agree on this structure definition of array of records, and who will own that? Who will keep that array of structure of array of records essentially? You will say it is global variable. So where it should be defined, how it should be accessed, and all those questions would arise. Or even the structure declaration itself, that what does that student record structure has. So where it should be included. So there are many of these different problems, and these different problems need to be handled. Now, one solution. So there are multiple things. Multiple answers that are coming through. Good that you have some notion, but there are a lot of issues even there. So for example, the Pulkit says that we might need to change design during development, which is actually a very bad idea, by the way. So what rather as a manager we don't, or rather I don't want to have, is to change design during development, because moment that happens, all the timelines go for a toss, and a lot of things keep on changing. And remember that this is not a project that we are doing for ourselves or as academic pursuit, where you submit a project, your teacher might give you, 15 out of 20 or 17 out of 20, etc. And then you are still happy with it. It's not like that. This is a commercial project that one is doing, and one has committed the deadlines saying that by this time I will give you the project. So either you get all the money or you get zero. Okay, and the customer is not going to give you anything, or he's going to punish you if you deliver the project late. So it is manager's responsibility to make sure that project gets delivered on time, and for that manager requires that the rework is avoided as much as possible. So the first thing which happens actually in such kind of situations is that manager makes everyone sit together and say that, tell me, if you come up with your own you tell me what kind of functions you are going to write, what are the declarations of those functions, and which of the functions you are going to expose to outside world, or rather which functions you require from other models that other model needs to provide you. So first let's thrash this out, and including variables also, not only functions, which functions, which variables you are going to declare, which other people might use or you want from other people. Let's discuss about it. So initial meetings are only to discuss this. So every programmer goes back to the desk, figures out what this interface.c guy will figure out, what all things that he or she requires, and makes a list of it. The sort guy will make a list, basic top, and they will come together on a single table. Okay, they don't go to their tables, test and work independently and then try to combine. Rather, they even before writing the code, right? Believe me that out of 100% of effort, writing code is only 40%. Okay, less than 50%. It's just 40%. 30% goes for design. Coding time is is comparatively small because you do a lot of design. You thrash out all the issues beforehand. Now, Nitin has some notions. I will touch upon that about .h file, but there are some issues even there, and I will describe those issues, and we will see what exact issues are. Again, whatever I'm taking right now, let me say on record that this is not as if it is part of data structures. Secondly, it is not something the static and external I can just avoid and not take it and say that you read up from your book and it's perfectly fine. And whatever I'm taking right now might cross across lot of different things or at a system level. And so perhaps I will be giving you a little bit of that view also how the whole environment looks like. I have a decision to make whether to take this or not. I know there are people in your class will come back later in the end of the all the lectures are over, saying that had you not taken that, then I do not have to attend lot of extra lectures. Which by the way, some people in your class kind of made those suggestions, saying that perhaps I spent a lot of time initially in DSPD1 in talking about history of computers and initial progress and all those things, and plus very basic stuff, how the whole von Neumann architecture and stuff like that. Now you tell me. I mean, it's a choice that I have to make. I mean, I can decide not to take that and directly start from hash define stio.h. And perhaps we could have gone there, and perhaps 6 or 7 lectures would have been reduced. Similarly, at this point also, I have the choice to make that whether I should take this or not to take this. I can decide not to take this, and depend on your experience, you will get the experience not in VNIT, maybe outside when you go for job, you'll get experience. You will know all of these things. What I'm trying to do is basically, I don't want you to be in that situation till 4 years. So actually, perhaps I didn't know many of these things. So perhaps I knew once I started programming in industry environment, or rather I knew some of the things, but there are different things. How the different things are connected is need to be. So I am taking a conscious decision to tell you about this. If anyone has any objection to this, they can write to me separately. I mean, I'm perfectly fine with it, but I don't want creeps later on saying that this I took unnecessarily. I mean, if we are taking this for everyone's benefit, then we should be okay with basically whatever extra time that we require. So that is because it is every semester's experience. I mean, I believe that everyone is at ground zero, and I start from very basic stuff, and later on people they at that time they enjoy, but then later on they come back and say, oh, you should not have done that. But remember that you are making those statements in retrospect. I mean, after all those things are, it's like हमारे लिए तो हो गया, हमारे junior batches के लिए मत लीजिए, or maybe we could have saved on some time, something like that. That is not going to happen. I mean, you have to consider where you were and then what has been done. So again, this I am taking from there. There are a lot of cross-connecting issues. I am saying that this will not be understood unless you go to the actual environment and understand and do the stuff. But I'm taking a risk, and it takes a lot of time to explain this because you have not done it. This is something which has to be done. Because you have not done it, you can't understand why these issues are there. So I'm taking a risk and I'm going ahead. Okay. So let me first tell you the first part. Firstly, people don't write program only in .c files. Okay. So the first they thrash out and they say that for example, this interface guy is going to say that I'm going to give you some functions which all of you other guys can use. Okay. And he says that I want functions from sort, maybe some special operations from this thing, basic ops from this thing. So he says that why don't you give me functions? He says basic ops. Why don't you tell me the function name for your insert and delete? These are the functions I'm going to call. This is what interface guy is going to say. Okay. What do you think interface guy requires when he says you tell me you give me the function for insert and delete? What exactly interface.c require? Let's start from there. And remember that this part I had taken when we discussed about the very in the beginning of the first Hello World kind of program. That time we had discussed this, and so I'm going back over there. Okay, so someone can question that why did I take that hello world.c this thing, but there is a reason. I mean, all these things are connected. So I will go back now. Okay, remember all of those things, discussions we had regarding linking and loading and stuff like that. Okay, library and the other things. And then .h files also we had discussed, right? I mean, I asked you the question, what is stio.h and what does it contain? So the interface, so every guy requires something else from the other guy. Okay, so this basic ops guy says fine. I mean, you guys, I know that you guys require things which let me list down. So this basic ops guy lists down the things over here. He says, okay, you guys require insert operation. You guys require delete operation. And so by you guys meaning not everyone, but at least some of the guys might require, and you guys might require, let's say, reset. or initialize, whatever you call it. So all these, it says that, okay, everyone requires, let's say some of you guys might require these operations. So it says that let me do this, let me write this as part of, let me give you only the declarations. Okay, and definitions are inside my basic ops db.c, but what essentially other guys require is only the declarations. And perhaps something over here, let's say void or something, whatever it is. So it's void or status code. I think we have taken something called a status code also. So it is one of the int basically. It could be int as well. So whether insert is successful or not. So it makes these declarations, and then you can extrapolate. And it says that this is basically part of the file which I'm going to expose to the outside world. And this file essentially I'm going to call as basic ops ops.h. This is more of programming. This is not data structures at all. I mean, this is more of understanding how programming gets done. So what this guy is going to do is he's going to he or she, whoever that is, basically is going to declare this file or create this file basic ops.h and have the declarations of the functions. Which functions? All functions? No. All those functions which other people want. There might be some functions which are which they need not expose. I mean, this guy says that is my own function, so they will not write things over it. But again, there are some issues there. I will talk about that. So it exposes these function names over here and says that these functions you guys can use. So now what this guy does is interface.c guy does is that, so this .h file is an advertisement, or is essentially a summary of what is contained inside. Okay. So what this interface.c guy does is that interface.c will try to include this file. So in interface.c will try to say hash include, and now because it's a user defined file, it is quotes are used rather than the angular brackets. Okay. So this interface.c is going to include basic ops.h. Not only that, this basic ops db.c also is going to include that. I mean, can someone tell me why? They are anyway basic ops db.c function. So actually this basic ops db.c need not include this, but it will still do that. What does it is .h contain? Typically it contains the declarations of variables. Okay, we are not onto the global variables as it. We are just talking about the functions. So it contains, so as a practice, it is a good, rather it is considered to be good practice that basic ops db.c also includes its own basic ops.h file. So basic ops typically the this thing will be db.h. So the typically the exact same name is being chosen for .h file. So there is a pair basically, and this basic ops db.c includes this basic ops db.h file. Can someone tell me? Nothing bad in the sense compiler is not going to create, because anyway you are going to define all these functions inside. So compilation will still go through, but it gives all the function definitions beforehand, but it is not useful, is what I am saying, because these functions, most of these functions are not, will not be used inside this basic ops. They are to be used by outside people. So it's not as if that I have declaration, so it will help me. Maybe it will help in one or two functions, but not all. Order of declarations, I don't require to include this basic ops db.h. So basic ops db.c does not require this declaration which you are doing in basic ops db. They also keep exactly same menu card displayed prominently inside the hotel also. Now you tell me whether do they require to do it inside the hotel also? Of course, you will say the diners, basically those who are going, they may require to refer that same thing, so they may want to know the names, etc. But imagine that they can take a photograph from outside and they come inside and they can look at the photograph and they can order. Let's say. Okay, so why the hotel might want to display the menu card inside as well prominently. Okay, in addition to the one outside. If that's question, you can get the reason why this basic ops db.c has to include basic ops db.h. It is a good. Maybe tomorrow we'll finish that off. Because this whole setting itself, if you are the hotel owner and you are displaying every day, the menu card changes, so you are displaying the menu card outside, you might want to yeah, I think someone has a uh, it is good practice to write in every website. We not miss it in any other file. Not exactly, but I think there is a better answer which I have from Gaurav. Yes. So to check if anything which has changed outside has also changed inside. Other is the other way around. Typically, what is going to happen in such cases is you create two menu cards, right? I mean, two. Yeah. mm, uh, Things are progressing inside the hotel. .h file, but inside it is not changed, or the other way around. Maybe inside something happens and some definition changes, some declaration changes, but outside it does not change. So what happens is there is a discrepancy. So this interface.c will keep on using this declaration, whereas the definition over here inside will have a separate declaration for insert function, which is not exactly same. That may happen over a period of time. So this basic ops db.c wants to capture it as a read, because many times it might happen that your manager actually might be holding this file basic ops db.h, and manager is making these changes because he's coordinating among all of these people and he's saying that okay, interface.c requires change in insert, he makes the changes over here. If he doesn't tell you, then you will be frustrated later on that and you will be blamed that the your function is not working. Okay, and this interface guy will say that okay, I had told manager. Manager will say, oh, I can't say anything against your manager, right? I mean, you can say anything against your teachers basically, but you can't say anything against your managers because manager will not like it. I mean, it has direct implication in terms of your salary and promotions and everything else. So the manager is going to say that okay, mistake ho gaya mere se, but manage kar le. And now at that point, the problem is that this basic ops db.c guy is going to get frustrated. So what basic ops db.c guy says, nothing doing. I will include this basic of gb.h file that everyone is using. It is kind of stored in a shared area that everyone uses. And he says that I'm putting it so anyone makes changes over here, I will immediately know. Okay, and that could be myself also. I mean, I may make some changes inside, but I don't reflect it outside. That is my responsibility that I have to make. And that is how this consistency is tracked. That what is being declared is exactly same as what is being delivered. Rather than finding out at the last moment, this is done throughout the development cycle. Okay, and that's why this .h file is important. So the reason that .h file is important is because you declare what you have an offer, and you also make sure that what you are doing is doing consistently, and the same thing you include over here. Okay, so at on this point I will stop. I think I've given the basic idea about why .h files are required, and everyone will have their own .h file. And now we will see that how the cross references happen and what issues can arise when you cross reference either functions or variables. That is the next part. Okay, so we'll stop now. If any query is there, you can put on the chat box. Otherwise, basically we will meet tomorrow. We have class from 2 to 3, I think. So we'll meet tomorrow for the class. Thank you.